we do just as much, I think, winning that kind of, punching above our weight kind of business by figuring out how to fight the early rounds and, crappy gyms, and working your way through.
You are live.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good. Good to see you.
Likewise.
I've seen a lot of you lately. Looking forward to seeing a lot more.
I'm excited about, we have a lunch tomorrow. We get to try one of these pizza places that
is right.
High Street Pizza apparently is good.
Highly recommended. No pun intended.
What'd you say?
No pun intended. Highly recommended High Street Pizza. Terrible.
Put that together. I was waiting for like a pie joke in there, but
but I am looking forward to it. Pizza's one of those things, man. I could eat that almost every day and never get tired of it.
Yep. This is going to be like a time machine episode. I feel like haven't spoken to this individual until 15 minutes ago, and probably, I don't know, 8 years. Kind of grew up on Granby Street together, if you will. I don't remember what time they moved in.
I look forward to diving in more about the pedigree of businesses out of there.
What was my old address? 111 Granby. So that's got to be like 105 Granby. No, it'd be an even. It's like 104 Granby, 106 Granby, something 110 Granby. I don't know. Like it's that space, which is now a winery or a wine shop. Not exactly what I would think would be in that space, but you've been in that space before, correct?
Yeah.
So of course we're talking about the man behind the sway,
Jarrett Beeler, gentlemen.
How's it going?
It was 131, as a matter of fact. Oddly enough.
How is that possible? How are you? How? My address was 111 Granby, wasn't it? Like I don't remember. Maybe it wasn't. But that space. Most recently, from a innovation company, it was Array Digital, which was Eric Olson starting that. They now moved out to Chesapeake, and they have 3 brands under them. It was you guys at Sway at some point. When were you guys there?
We were there from, I guess, 2012 to probably 19, I think.
Okay.
So good chunk of time.
So if we moved in 12, then you must have been there right then at the same time.
Yep.
Then Grow had been there at some point. I don't recall what was there in between then, but something about that space.
Something about it, man.
Because didn't Norfolk, they offered some sort of grant type of thing to startups to move in, didn't they? Isn't that how Eric?
At that time they did, yeah. I believe they still do some similar sort of stuff for sure.
The Vibrant Spaces thing?
Yep. Well, yeah. So Vibrant Spaces, yeah, that was a few years after. So that was something that Drew cooked up over at Grow with the folks at DNC. And I mean, there's still some killer businesses that are still open. The Crepes Place down the street, and was really kind of, I think, the beginnings of what those guys would wind up doing with assembly and that.
Yeah, that was the assembly space in one of them, right? Wasn't Muddy Paws one of them?
Muddy Paws was, I believe, one of them. Yep.
Got it. Okay.
Man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that little space has definitely housed some pretty wild stuff. It was perfect. It was like 3 levels. And very
you don't
quaint.
expect it. Yeah.
When
I had my TV show, we did a couple episodes in there just because Eric was we needed a space to record, and so it's.
Oh, didn't you do Zach hacks out of there from time to time?
I'm very easy. Clearly, I would not do that again today. But thank you for that memory lane. Yeah. Okay, so are you from here? I can't remember.
I am, man. Yeah. Born in Portsmouth, grew up in Chesapeake, moved to Norfolk when got a little older, ran away from home for a few years and found myself back. So, yep. Born and raised in God's country, P-Town.
Okay. What high school did you go to?
Western Branch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Then did you go to ODU? Did you go to college?
I did. Yeah. I went to ODU, was there for a while, and then had an opportunity to leave and go play music, and left as soon as finished my 4 years up there and wound up in Jersey and New York.
Yeah. Dude, I want to hear more about the music journey.
Yeah, man. Well, many pounds and many hairs ago, I played in a number of bands like around here, just kind of locally or what have you. and got an opportunity to join a band that had a development deal up in New York City. Went up there and I think completely just, culture shift, turned my head upside down as to what the world was all about. So, kid from Norfolk, Virginia, going up and living in the city and sleeping on couches and, traveling the country, really kind of shaped, my brain and perspective on everything. Really made a living, designing websites for bands and flyers for bands. That was really kind of how I got my skill set to begin designing and writing and developing and all the things that now I do, in the agency setting. So yeah, it was a big part of my life for a long time there.
Dude, I love the grinding aspect.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. DIY, right? Like everything was, you just figured it out. Man, I drove a big converted school bus. It was my primary mode of transportation. So this giant yellow bus, we called it the cool bus because we were stupid. And yeah, drove that thing all the way across the country, which is absolutely insane when I think about it now. But yeah, man, that was in the salad days for sure.
There's a ton of like conversion vans and converting of vans and buses now. It's like a big thing.
Yeah.
We actually had a guest on maybe a year or two who bought a school bus, I think from New York, and then converted it. And now it's got like an Airbnb somewhere and he's making a couple $100 a night off of it. It's like, okay. Like, well, yeah. Crazy that
ours wasn't that slick. We took it to a dump and basically, spend the like $500 or whatever to go and take whatever you want, like a pick and pull. So we were pulling like captain's chairs out of boats and like convertible beds and stuff set up inside of it. So it was, it was something for sure. But it got us through, man. I slept in that thing a many nights in a many of Walmart parking lots till the cops told us to move on. So.
Yeah, I was just in Boston last week, and we were there for the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday kind of thing. But walking by, one of the clubs they used was playing that night,
right?
Yeah, and
used,
yeah, and I didn't even know that they were still around or even still doing their thing, but like. So the bus was parked out front, and then behind the bus, they're towing the trailer kind of deal. But like the aspect that you don't see, man, where they had the trailer door open, and in there was just boxes and boxes and boxes, and it was just all T-shirts, But you don't see that grinding aspect where you like, dude, you're hustling hard, and you're making your money on T-shirts and all that stuff, man. It's pretty wild.
You are, man. I mean, it's an exercise in marketing, right? Like to your point, you're making merch, you're like putting flyers up, you're trying to get any and everybody into that show because like your dinner depends on it. It's like we're in some town in the middle of the Midwest who has no idea who the hell we are. Like it's absolutely imperative that flyer does something to get them through that door. So that, the club owner asks us back and we have gas money to get to the next spot. So yeah, man, it taught me a lot.
And you got to play. I mean, even if you're playing in front of 2 or 3 people, man, you got to make sure you're playing in a way that they're going to want to come back when you're making your way back through the other side, next time, and that they bring friends. So that you're playing in front of 6 people instead of 3.
100%. And it blows my mind to this day how many people I meet in this business that started in that space too. For whatever reason. I mean, we've got tons of people at Sway that are musicians that have, either been touring musicians or at least, kind of weekend warrior sort of deal. But I don't know. I guess it's just an adaptable ethos, I guess.
Did you go to the show, Tim?
No, no, that was, man, you heard about that whole.
I know.
Yeah.
But
we wanted to.
I didn't. What happened?
So we, jeez, this is just
or maybe not.
it's just really, it's totally ridiculous. So we went down Fenway Park area, did our own little makeshift bar crawl kind of thing. We went to this, we ended up at a place called Loretta's.
Okay.
Anyway, that was the last stop of a bar crawl for some charity event that was going on. And I'm watching this group of people come through the doors. And I was like, nudged my wife. And I was like, dude, this person's not going to make it. Just a stumbling mess. Long story short, this same person ends up next to us. And I got a little vomit on me at 3:00 in the afternoon, which Yeah, that's Boston for you, I guess.
Always a good time. Always a good time.
I love that it was 3 p.m., not 3 a.m. too, in the whole thing. Like,
yeah, I mean,
where
at
were
the
the
end of the
Used
day,
playing again?
What's that?
Where were the Used playing? If you're down by Fenway, was it the Paradise?
No, it was the man. It's gosh, I'm totally blanking on the name, but it's a bigger place. It'll come to me. I can't think of it, but it's killing me that I can't think of it. But I always
wanted to see them.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
But it's a franchise, if you will.
Right. Okay, I gotcha. Like a Hard Rock or something like that.
Yeah, but man, it's gonna make me crazy. I'm gonna have to do some research super quick. But,
yeah. So interesting. Just like thinking about like bands, there is a lot about business and bands and like getting to that success. And I feel like people look at, just like these musicians who have, let's just say, made it, and they're very mainstream. And it's like, you go back and you're like, wow. Right. Like, so like the person I think of in that right now is like Jelly Roll. Right. So Jelly Roll is huge, but how many years has he been putting into making that? And I feel, I'm sure you think the same thing, Jarrett, and I know Tim does, but like
House
of Blues. Got it.
Gotcha. Cool.
The amount of effort that businesses don't put in to the marketing aspect, to the promotion aspect of what they're doing is crazy. And so like, I feel like a lot of what I've learned in business, and as crazy as it is from like the promotion of WWE promoting their own things over and over and over again, ESPN promoting their thing over and over again. It's like, hey, we have this event coming up.
Yep. They've been talking about the draft for so long that I texted you just a couple of days ago. Like, when is this thing? They've been
because
talking
they need
about
people to tune in.
Because
you have to get people to tune in. And if you don't get people to tune in, whatever you promise from a commercial perspective isn't going to be met. And then maybe there's some sort of like, screw up there that has to get, fixed. And so it's like, I try to tell people all the time, like, you got to like really reinforce, like, you have to do this a lot more than you think. You can't just post one thing and think that it's enough, right? And so like we just announced we just announced we're doing this event in August, the Startup World Cup, the second time we've done it. It's 4 months before.
Dude.
Like,
I mean, it's a struggle, man. Because I feel like I feel like that's the only thing that I'm talking about right now. And I'm like, and we still have 4 months of promotion for this thing.
119 days. Let's go. The only reason I know that is
not that you have it on the calendar or anything.
The only reason I know that is because our ticketing platform has 119 days away.
That's good though. I dig that.
Yeah,
create
a little bit of anxiety-inducing reminder there for you.
Yeah.
But I mean, so what from a band standpoint, when it's not, dude, we're doing one show, August 21st, and then we're kind of done. But I mean, you've got many shows already booked, and you're trying to balance multiple fronts.
Gosh, I mean, we were coming up in the era of MySpace, right? So I'll date myself a little bit here. So, I mean, that was absolutely everything, right? I mean, you use that as a platform to book shows, to, commune with other bands, to, court friends that were friends of this band or liked this band or what have you. So, that was a very big deal. And we spent most of our off time traveling from city to city. One of us was on that laptop trying to, find some folks to come out to that next show. I think bands nowadays, man, I feel even worse for them. And we had like one singular platform that we had to worry about. These guys are on every single platform out, from YouTube to TikTok to, Insta and the whole nine, and developing very different content streams for each one of the platforms. If you're a new artist coming up, one nicety about kind of the breakdown of the old major label kind of system is that you have the opportunity to record and to market and to promote, all your own stuff in a way that wasn't available even to bands our age back 10, 15 years ago. But man, it's a full-time gig, dude. And you talk about somebody like Jelly Roll, who I'm not a huge fan of, but got to give it to the dude. He hustled, right? He figured it out. He found a space for himself online and, was able to get his music out there. And it's insane to me watching the strategies that these guys deploy, some of which are not even totally self-serving. They're like very subtle strategies. Like, how do I write a song that's going to become, a wildly used TikTok sound or what have you, right? Like, I just can't imagine going into creating art like that under the auspices of like, this will be my end to then people hearing all my other songs that were really kind of made for me. Like, that's just a weird place to be in as a creator and as a musician. And I don't know, man. I give those guys their flowers all day long. That any working musician that's still out there trying to do it, because you are running a full-time media company, and all it used to be about is, can you write a decent song?
That's Little Nas X basically to a T, right? Isn't that how he got his kind of fame? Yeah,
100%, exactly right.
But on the flip side,
exactly
how big of a team do you think a Tay-Tay has or a Katy Perry has that is doing that once you've quote unquote made it?
Totally.
I mean, they have to have a team of what, 10, 15 people that are doing that now?
Oh man, anyway, I mean, they've got some pretty world famous, number twos, like their PR folks, and their management is wildly dense. I think big thing there too is, startup capital in the front end. I mean, that's a VC talk, but that's legit. What's up? I mean, Taylor Swift, as great as she is, and she's an incredible songwriter, like, can't take anything away from her. Awesome performer, has done something in the space that nobody has done and maybe will ever match from the concert experience that she pulled off the past few years. But, had a little dough to help her get going, and that always helps. So there's a lot of that. I think it's interesting too, just the way that we're consuming music and finding music and valuing music too from an art perspective. And I don't want to get on my Spotify rant here, but understanding how little artists make on one of those streams, how they have to recoup the money that they spent to get it on that distribution service, and then ultimately, to make any coin at all that would constitute a living. I don't mean like crazy 80s days where Motley Crue's living in these decadent like mansions. I'm talking like pay your bills and have a cheeseburger or two a week. It's tough, man. It's tough. So yeah, when you reach that kind of like critical mass level where you've got that many people under you and a label that's basically laying down and letting you do whatever, it's rarefied air, man. There's only a handful of artists, especially new artists, that are coming out that ever really achieve that, because it's not just kind of the landscape anymore. It's tough to do.
And there's no shortage of people trying to do it either.
No sir.
Isn't it like you only make like a couple $100 for like millions of views? Isn't it something like
Dude, your Spotify stream on average is 0.003 cents, not even a cent. So do that math really quickly, right? So it costs you $50 to get on one of those platforms to distribute a full length record, right? So divide $50 by 0.003. That's what you got until you're just, clean. You're even, right? Then most of these distribution platforms that let you, digitally distribute across all the platforms like, Apple and Spotify, et cetera, they have basically like $20 escrow accounts that you have to exceed that before they'll send you a check. So think of all of these small garage vans that have to reach tens of thousands of plays before they're actually making any money. And then on top of that, how many times over before they make money that is, remotely livable. So, next time you understandably crow about how much ticket prices are for, the indie rock band that you used to be able to see for $15. Well, now maybe have a little bit of an understanding why. And
that's because of Ticketmaster. That's
that too, that part too, but also even just merch sales and things of that nature, it's compounded. So it's tough, man. Yeah.
I don't remember if we were on the show or not, Zach, but like I because I was looking to get tickets to go see Blink-182 at the amphitheater, man. I was like, dude, $183 a ticket, man. I just can't do it. So I went back and I looked at my scrapbook, and I found my ticket stub from Nirvana at 94. And it was $19.95. $19 for the ticket. I mean, it's just, man.
And way to miss a layup at making those ticket prices 183. I mean, if you were gonna go for it, might as well.
They should have made it 182.
Yeah. Just ground ball stuff.
It's all the small things,
That's it, man. That's it.
I think that one band that I found on Spotify that has made it big, and I don't know how big, but is Rainbow Kitten Surprise. I don't know if you know them.
Yeah, I actually do know them. A buddy of mine turned me on to them a while back.
And they've
weird
been
band name, but really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's a very weird band name. You're almost like, can that get big? I have this game that I play with myself. It's very weird. It's a weird thing to say, but you're familiar with the app Shazam that tells you like what songs these are. So I try to play a game where it's like find the song that has the most streams
and the least,
and then the least. And so Tim has seen this like literally there. We were at Pharrell's thing downtown. What was that called? the elephant, not the elephant one, the other one,
Mighty Dream.
Mighty Dream. And he had this music. What was that thing that we were at, Tim, where they had the musicians come in and then they played their songs?
Music.com stage.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, we did all the work for that. So we did all the design work and all the setup.
So you did that poster? Yes, cool.
Hope you like it.
So we're doing that, and I'm there, and these people are playing, and they're like, I'm literally getting the first Shazam. So
yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. You know, I think the highest one I think I've ever found is like Lord Royals. Was that what it was? Like 35 million Shazams or something like that.
Well, like, dude,
it's a curious thing though. That gets my brain going, because it's like you wouldn't Shazam something that is so ridiculously well known. Like, I'm sure Freebird doesn't have very many Shazams, right? But something like Lord, you're right, is kind of that weird, very well known. But
that one hit by GoTA is.
That's cool, man. I kind of like that. That challenge.
I will. So like, I'll throw on Apple Music. And I'll just let it play. I'm like, man, I'm already paying for the subscription. If I can throw my boys a 0.003 cents per stream, I'll just let that thing go. And
here you go.
Try to gotta listen for longer than 30 seconds too.
Is that what the time frame is?
Yep, 31 seconds. Yeah, a lot of the work that we do with Sony. Obviously we're judged on the number of plays ultimately that solicits out of whatever the fan experience is. So if we don't get that fan to listen past that 31 seconds, it doesn't count. So,
wow.
They do all kinds of fun stuff to calculate that.
How does that translate into your business? Do you work with clients typically that understand all this stuff? Or are you more educating them that, hey man, we got to grind, we got to repetition. What's your ideal client base that you work with today?
Yeah, I mean, specifically to, all the music stuff that we're kind of talking about here. Yeah, obviously that definitely comes into play when we're working with any sort of entertainment client, because there's always some sort of baseline around whether it's streaming or, ultimate music downloads and things of that nature. So they kind of understand that ecosystem, right? Because they live and breathe it every single day, and they live and die on record sales and how far it's advancing. I think just technology as a whole, spinning up all of our clients and the folks that we work with and trying to find new solutions for them is totally part of what we do. I mean, that's what they expect of us and what we ultimately have to bring. We're really lucky, and this isn't lip service. The large majority of the clients that we work with are pretty savvy, which is awesome, right? Because they understand the language. We're not bringing them anything that's over their head. We might bring them things that, push their understanding of the technology and means and delivery mechanisms as to get their message out there that are different than they've seen before, but they get the language, right? They know how to speak it back to us. So that's super helpful, because, the last thing that you want to be in, the kind of habit of doing is having to do this full explanation and 101 of, the technology behind the idea before you've even pitched the idea. Like, technology works best when it's invisible. So, you want something that's an enablement to a really smart, creative message, not, hung on the novelty of this cool new shiny tech thing.
Man, I'm just thinking, artists today, man, they probably don't even remember. They probably don't even know what liner notes are, man. That was always like my favorite thing. Get through whatever CD, cassette, vinyl, and just to do the liner notes, man. Like, to dive into those, that was the thing for me. Anyway.
What is it?
Liner notes, like the inside sleeve of a CD or a record.
Oh.
Where you're like, look at the lyrics, or look at
the CD would have the booklet that would come in, or the cassette, you would unfold it. Do those.
You'd feel ripped off if you didn't get like a decent book. It was like,
oh gosh,
look at these lazy dudes.
Dude, those were the days.
No, I don't remember those days.
Those were the days.
I had those up on my like bedroom wall, man. Those were like my posters.
Like back in the day, like I would save all the cardboard cartons that the CDs came in, the big long sleeves,
the long tall ones.
Yeah, man. Yeah, those were the days.
Yeah, man.
People got robbed. People are getting robbed today.
Cost too much.
I'm gonna make a statement, and I know you don't believe it, but I want you to tell me why. Okay.
Challenge accepted.
I don't think people, when they hear the words Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads, this region, pair that with creativity.
Yeah.
I don't think they look at this area as being a creative place. I don't think those are the first words that would come to mind.
But at the same time, though, there's so much of it. I mean, it's so much of it that is just, I don't know.
Well,
It's so weird. I agree
creativity
with
is
you.
everythure, and it's subjective
Yeah,
anyway, right?
for
But
sure.
like,
I mean, I will tell you this, like, you know, I think this region has produced some of the most creative people I've certainly ever met. You know, I've had the luxury of, like I mentioned at the top, you know, living a stone's throw from New York City for 3 years, going into the city absolutely every single day, and being in the mix of what is probably undeniably one of the most, if not the most creative place on earth, right? Traveling with bands and musicians, seeing unbelievable, you know, artists that were making really, really cool stuff. And I can tell you that some of the people that I've ran into here have that same caliber of talent and have that same caliber of care. I think part of what makes this place interesting is the opportunity for it to be malleable. If you can find an opportunity to break through and you can bring one of those creative ideas to bear, you're going to have a really hard time making that happen in a New York City or a San Francisco, or, you know, insert Austin-like place here, because the system's already set up to, you know, placate those that already have, you know, track records of doing these ideas. So, you know, for me, I think what makes Norfolk interesting, I think you're right, Norfolk, Virginia Beach interesting. You're right that when you compare it to some of these huge cultural hubs, you know, there's a lot going on that you know, we need to kind of up our game and kind of get there. But man, the bones here are out of control. You've got some world-class places, from museums to unbelievable arts organizations like, you know, Virginia Arts Festival, to what Festivents is doing. You've got unbelievable stages and rooms that sound killer, that have the opportunity, when, you know, the right act is in there, to do something really kind of amazing. And I think you've got a stream too of, and this is starting to sound very much, you know, put my Visit Norfolk hat here on for a second, but genuinely, like, you've got a stream here in Hampton Roads too of really awesome education places and institutions that are, you know, putting kids out into the world. I think what we need to concentrate on is figuring out how the heck to keep them here, right? And making certain that we're not losing our best creators to other cities to go and further their city's reputation of how creative a place it is, and make them want to come back home and actually have an impact here. So, you know, for me, yeah, I would disagree with you. I do think that this is a supremely creative place, but I do not think it's nearly at its potential of the supremely creative place it could be.
I'm just an instigator, you know. I was trying to get that out of you. I think your answer was great. What are other cities? And I whenever someone's like, we need to be the next San Francisco, we need to be the next Austin, like that, I hate that talk. I hate that vernacular. I think it's dumb. Be yourself, own you, figure that out. Right.
Totally agree.
Over the years, you know, to me, if I was to define this region in one word, it would be water.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sure.
And there's so many things associated with water. Sure, there's like tentacles of where that goes, with the beer scene, the military, the beaches, etc. Right. But I think what you said there is maybe a missing piece that is not vocalized enough. But it's if you go somewhere else, it's going to be very hard for you to break in. Yeah. But if you come here, you can become a big fish in a small pond very easily, type of thing. And I think that's a unique asset to this region that is not communicated a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, even I worked in TV news for 3 years, and then within 18 months, people knew who I was after I had left there. And I'm like, okay, well, this is weird. How did I do this? And I think it's kind of like what you're just saying. It's like, I
mean, I think you also take on this opportunity too, and maybe obligation, responsibility of making, you know, the pond bigger too, right? It ain't just being a big fish and, you know, you're able to dominate because of lack of competition or whatever it kind of is. It's, you know, when you get onto something and you find an opportunity to be elevated here and people start to catch on to what the heck it is that you're doing, you've got an obligation to try to widen that pond. And, you know, we were talking about that a little bit in the kind of pre-show, like, for us too, it's beginning to get to a place where at now, you know, 40 and some change years old with 2 kids, like, I'm looking backwards and saying, how can I help, you know, these kids that are coming up with all these new ideas that maybe ain't my thing, but are ultimately going to be a driver to make Norfolk that cool place that you're describing. You know, how do we empower those guys to see their vision through, to help them cut through some of the mistakes that we made, to help them navigate the, you know, understandable red tape sometimes of what it takes to pull an event off, or, get a restaurant opened, or whatever it is. Being in service to those folks that are coming up after us, I think, is kind of what our charge ought to be now, versus, trying to include more things that we're totally into. Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to make this place even better, not just creatively, but, economically, like making it a better place to live, better place for people to want to bring businesses to, go down the list of benefits that comes with. Any great metropolitan area is, largely dependent on really sound, creative people that are doing cool things that make people want to show up, so getting out of their way a bit and helping them versus hindering them, I think, is objective number one.
It's wild, because I used to be, I don't know if I ever vocalized this. I'm sure I've said it to Tim, but I really wanted to be the center of attention on stuff. I really wanted to be loud and vocalized with some of the stuff we're doing, and I don't anymore. Right. And I really it's become kind of like my individual mission to be like, okay, how can we make that pond bigger? How can we take some of the things that I've learned over the years and really elevate other individuals, other businesses to do those type of things? And it's so, I don't know, I even think it's maybe even more rewarding to do that type of stuff, because it's like, oh, cool. Like you helped nurture this individual, this business, whatever. And so it's, I feel like we're, without even talking for 10 years, like we've kind of matured into these individuals who are like the instigators back in the day. And now we're like, oh,
we're the them now.
Yeah.
Right. We're the them.
That's
now,
what
right?
I'm sitting back thinking about this, man. It's like, where did the time go?
But also it's a cool thing though. Like I kind of love that, because, gosh, I wish that the them that I was going up against when we were coming up and trying to do some cooler things in this city, had the history that I do now, as I'm, a business owner and somebody that, taxpayer and all this jazz. And, we are the people that, we used to, excuse my French, bitch about, like, couldn't get anything through. Like we have to come to that realization that, like, oh, that's on us now. And we've got to be receptive to not be the thems that we, confronted back in the day. So yeah, man, that's been my realization here as of late as well, and trying to figure out ways to kind of, sounds completely tropish, but kind of give back to, what's coming up now, and figuring those things out. And you got to build those bridges, man. It's not always the easiest thing too, of figuring out how you tap into that energy, but I've also got a business that's ran on, young creative talent too. So if I'm not doing my part to nurture it, then I'm hurting my own business too.
I learned that through a lot of you guys too, like with building the plot back in the day. And it was like a sense of place.
That's it.
I feel like you and me got the most out of the plot than anyone. Old plot, main plot, right? And I mean, that was like our playground in our front yard. It was like, oh, we have this park. Do you ever see that, Tim? You remember that, right? The plot downtown? Yeah. I mean, no offense to the new plot, but the old plot.
It's the killer,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that was just one of those things that someone told us that we couldn't do it. And you know what I mean? It was just like, well, it's sitting there. It's temporary. We know eventually there's going to be a giant hotel here that's going to be beautiful and XYZ thing. And it is now, right? But, in the meantime, why not do something kind of cool with it, And then the neon came together in the exact same kind of way. It's just, finding people now that still have that same kind of energy, that want to see similar things, and connecting them with other people that are kindreds that can help them do it. Because, we always kind of joke about, that group of people have gone on to open their own businesses and are like super successful, up and down Granby Street and throughout Norfolk, throughout Hampton roads. But it was that weird kind of coming together of this almost like Justice League of skills. We had architects that were awesome at WPA, who were doing amazing things. We had, folks that understood the digital space over at Grow. We had lawyers that were with us. We had, kind of these folks from every facet of industry. So, if we needed a presentation put together, ask the guy that does advertising all day long. If we needed, blueprints or sketches done of what a potential site could look like, awesome. We've got an architect that can do that for next to nothing, right? So that spirit of just wanting to contribute to a place, just because we wanted to make it better, not because we had any ulterior motives of it leading to new business for us or like anything else. We just wanted some cool things to enjoy on the weekends when we weren't working. And, now it's kind of becoming like, I want to be able to drive by stuff with my kids and point to it and be like, yeah, your dad had something to do with that, but it's still that same kind of energy.
You think it's the same for real?
I do, man. I do. Yeah. I mean, it ebbs and tides like anything.
Yeah,
else,
it just seems like there's so much noise now, and it's just like, how do you break through the noise to get people to support? There's just so many different things, and there's so much dilution, and that it's just like, man, like, how do we get multiple hundred people to show up to, as Zach mentioned, the Startup World Cup? I mean, it's like, we're going to be grinding super hard to drive attendance to that. And
I think that's a big part of it too, though, right? Like, and I say this as pot calling kettle black, right? Like, your energy level has got to match the challenge, right? Like, back in the day, I had a whole heck of a lot more time and a whole heck of a lot more energy. That hustle was, I think, second place to the objective. It was like, yeah, that's just part of it. I don't care. I'm running through walls until this thing gets done. Nowadays, you've got very limited time. You got, all these kind of things that makes that seem harder. And maybe the level of effort is the same. It's just, you've got constraints on what you're able to do. So it's where you gotta like hand the ball to other folks and like really figure out, how do I put this in the hands of people that do still have that energy, do still have that fever, at the same quotient that we do, right? Like, we all still have it, but we also, I don't know, man, I tire easy. Like, it's tough. Like,
and that's just it, man. Like, I tell people, man, if it's important, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse.
Hey, man, nobody has time. You got to make time,
I watched a show, and I know reality TV is ridiculous, but it was way back in the day, I believe on the channel AMC. It was called The Pitch.
Okay.
And in advertising, and so the premise was, there's two companies and they were pitching to get this piece of business. Is that like how you guys actually get business? Is a lot of it RFP or driving through that, or doing a lot of like free work beforehand and then never winning? To me, I was like, wow, that's a lot of work to never get anything. Or is this just like showtime? Like, you're doing this for, the production of the TV show? Like, what is the advertising world like to acquire business?
So the answer is yes. Kind of all of the above. I mean, we are very lucky that we've been able to really create some outstanding brand advocates for ourselves, right? So, when we contract work with somebody for the first time, we over deliver. We show them everything that we possibly can. It's our job to show them what they want, what they never knew they wanted, right? And what we've been able to do is kind of create this suite of like brand evangelists that either move up and move on and take us with them. So, we've had, for instance, a client that we had kind of day one was Value Options, which was this big behavioral healthcare seller, right? They merged with the next big company up, and we were in a bake-off between their agency and ours. We won that business, so now became the agency of record for the biggest behavioral healthcare insurance provider in the country. That brand manager then went on elsewhere and wound up at Rite Aid and brought us with them. And next thing you know, we were developing the Rite Aid brand identity. He's now at Xylem Kindle, which has now become the third biggest. They're based right here in Hampton Roads, the third biggest, vegetation management, and becoming this huge infrastructure group. So for us, we've done a very good job of not failing a lot of people and just kind of doing what we said we were going to do, and being that in the trenches partner, so that when these people move on, they take us with them. But yeah, there's still, I mean, dude, I'm doing probably, I think I have 5 RPs on my desk right now, which is challenging, man. I mean, it's only so many times you can write something the same way and have it come off a little bit different and not bore yourself, and for us, we've always tried to approach RFPs in a very, charming way, right? Like, not make them so stuffy and business objective. It's been really hard with the advent of AI to like leave that part out of it and try to focus on it still coming across as very authentic and very much us. So, I think we've won a lot of business that way, in the way in which we present our work and talk about our work and lay out the strategy in a way that's maybe a little bit different and not so stuffy as some of our competitors do. But then too, there are certain opportunities wherein spec work comes into play. And we've always really been big proponents of not doing spec work, not because we feel we're beneath it or what have you, we just kind of feel like it devalues the work a bit. And ultimately too, feel like it's kind of irresponsible. Like, how can you, before you've been contracted by these, potential clients, really have a full sense of what it is they're after? What are their key performance indicators? What are they trying to accomplish with this thing, without having that kind of discovery period of getting to know each other and knowing what they like and what they don't, what they're trying to pull off? Like, anything you're throwing is just, throwing stuff against the wall and hoping that it sticks, or, showing off your design chops, or, hey, well, that was a clever headline. But whether or not it's going to ultimately serve a business objective for them is, it's tough to tell at that point. Do we do it? Occasionally, yeah. I mean, when there's an opportunity big enough or something we feel passionately about that we want, do we get in the mix and come up with a few, on the house ideas? Absolutely. Is it something that we do on the regular? Not really, man. And I've seen a lot of RFPs too, as of late, and I love this. I think beginning to kind of catch on to that, like kind of understanding that, like, it's a bit of a fool's errand to ask of you to solve our marketing objectives before we've even told you what they really are, right? You've got to get that into the weeds and that intimately understanding of institutionally what they've got going on before you can, responsibly offer a creative solution solving it. So, but yeah, man, it's all of the above, dude. It ups and downs. I mean, I'm writing an RFP right now that's at about 83 pages. I'll turn another one in next week that's probably only about 12, so the asks are sometimes super dense, sometimes very lightweight, and you just got to kind of roll with the punches. It's always a joke around here. It's like, oh, well, you can borrow some of that stuff from the last RFP. Dude, it never works that way. It's always from scratch. It's always like, nah, this doesn't quite work because of this one or two little variables or whatever. And you're writing from go again. So
I always thought that your world was a lot more relationship based. I didn't realize that you were responding to RFPs. Like, is there like a portal that
great question. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, it is relationship based. Like I said, I mean, I would say probably 60 to 70% of the business that we have right now is, almost old school word of mouth. I mean, we don't have a new business director. We haven't really had a steady new business director for a number of years, because we've been very lucky to be able to take one job and turn it into three, and then turn it into, oh, you did web work for us. Oh, wow, you do TV too? Oh, sick. Let's try you out on that. And just, we call it bubble business. And we just have been able to evolve that and continue to see it. The RFP world is something that, it's, for one, it's cyclical, right? And it's something too that any sort of government or state adjacent work has to go through that process.
Right.
So if you look at something like, we do a lot of work in travel tourism. Visit Norfolk's one of our clients. Virginia Tourism Corporation is one of our clients. Virginia's for Lovers. Those by procurement, have to, every 4 or 5 years, go through a process wherein they vet individuals and individual agencies, and we compete. So, and a lot of times we're competing against some of the biggest names on Madison Avenue. I mean, when we won that Rite Aid business, when we won the Virginia tourism business, we're talking about large 800-900 person agencies, sometimes in the thousands of people agencies that are doing work for the biggest brands in the land, the Geicos and the Walmarts and the Budweisers of the world. So for us, being able to compete on that level and a lot of times win in those competitions, it's a big coup for us, man. So, navigating kind of both streams of how you find that business and ultimately too, how the heck you keep it, are, things that are on our radar every single day to try to make certain that we're expanding what we're doing. And, we've got more work than we know what to do with.
Is it, does it make big waves in your world when, like, a Martin agency, when CarMax leaves Martin agency and goes somewhere? I think they just went with an LA marketing.
Yep.
Is that big news amongst your world, or is that
for sure? I mean, for sure. I mean, the larger agency world is in a weird spot right now. It's actually, I analog back to the music world. A lot of agencies are being swallowed up right now by these giant holding companies, right? And very much like how smaller record indie labels were being swallowed up by the mammoth, record companies. And it's getting to a place where these holding companies are almost running some of these agencies as like their farm team, right? So you're losing people. So the creative director that worked with you on your last campaign is probably not going to be the same creative director as will work with you on the next one. because if they were any good, they've been cherry picked and, you know, pulled up to the next agency or the next level up. It also too is it conflates things a lot too, because they've got so many people working on this stuff that things are lost in translation. They're not in the trenches actually with the clients. So, you know, the big agency world right now is absolutely in, you know, our realm of understanding and learning about what's going on. It certainly sends ripples when, you know, they lose a big client like that. One, for, man, is there any opportunity we could get on that client roster to maybe win some of that work? But I think more emphatically, just kind of the state of where the big agency is right now is making it kind of an opportune time for an agency like ours, that is that kind of right size agency that's coming up and trying to find ways to go back to just giving good client service, which sounds like such a brass tack vanilla thing to offer as a USP, but it is. They're not used to that anymore because there's not consistency in the people that they're working with. There's not consistency in pricing because it's, you know, all up and down based on who they use. There's hidden fees for days. So, you know, for us, it's trying to kind of best that convention of what that big agency model is and not try to aspire to be that, but try to be that independent agency that can get in the trenches with these folks and come up with ideas that are going to work.
What are your thoughts on the robots, on AI? That's what
I think if you're not leaning into it, you're crazy. I mean, we very, very quickly adapted so many AI tools into our workflow. I mean, Claude is my best friend, dude. You know, Claude, Midjourney, we're using something called Eureka to help us with like original scoring and, you know, and especially too, when you get into outside of just the like freemium sets and really get into like the professional suites of what you can do with these things, it's bonkers, dude. I mean, and it is just so unbelievably helpful for us to distill information for very menial tasks that would be just time sucks. I mean, I think that's the biggest gift that it's given us. Is it writing ads for us? No. Is it gonna create a beautiful image for us that's gonna feel authentic? No. I mean, we're still years away from that, in my opinion, to get to a place wherein, you know, you're able to create something that can be just as emotive as if you went and shot it. And I know, you know, Coca-Cola's running ads with, you know, AI generated polar bears and stuff at Christmas time or whatever, but there's still a level of, I think, people knowing what's real and what ain't. But as an augmentation to what you're already doing, as an empowerment tool to, you know, help you take notes and track action items and, you know, help you develop iterations of things that you've already created, you know, from scratch, helping you create kind of vibe imagery from mood boards and things of that nature. That's stuff that would have required hours and hours and hours of time and research and digging and searching and, you know, putting things together that now we can knock out in an afternoon. So, you know, I really am of the headspace of, I don't think it's as good as everybody thinks it is yet. And I stress yet, could change tomorrow.
Moving fast.
It is, but I also don't think it's taking my job anytime soon, you know?
Yeah, it's dude, it's crazy how fast things are moving. I mean, it just, and yeah, you've got to leverage it 100%. It's funny to me just listening to you, and I'm like using the robots for the robots. Like I dig Midjourney, but it's just I struggle with like really getting that prompt just right to get the results that I'm looking for. So then I'll go to another robot. Man, help me with this prompt, man. I just can't get it. And it's just it's so.
What is Midjourney?
Midjourney is an image generation AI tool, so it's really powerful. You can upload, you know, reference pieces. You can say, hey, I like the style that, adhere that style to this new prompt. There's a lot of different kind of ins and outs to make it clean. You know, all these things are kind of, you know, obviously the kind of gold standard is everybody using ChatGPT is sort of what you're first introduced to. All of the tools that we use are basically like more defined, more complex, more feature driven versions of the kind of brass tacks prompt offerings that something like that would afford you.
Yeah, I think the thing that's so paralyzing to me, man, is it's the possibilities of what you put into a prompt is really unlimited. So it's almost paralyzing to me.
Last night, it turned my dog into a human.
There's that. Did it turn it back? I think is the most important.
I wanted to actually, I was thinking about this last night. Like, could it turn me into a dog? Like, what? Maybe I need to do that. I'm gonna do that for all of us. I'll send you guys a picture of what we look like from there. What would you say is Sway's bread and butter?
Yeah, man. Our bread and butter is 100% campaign, generation. Like, given an opportunity to build something from ground up and talk to every single facet and work in every single channel. So we're very, very lucky that we've got some unbelievably talented people that work under this roof for a billion others in remote work setting. But being able to take a specific business objective, figure out what the problem is that our client is facing, and develop a campaign that responds to it from a creative perspective, from a strategy perspective, from a media placement perspective, knowing where these ads are going to go to make certain that they're very tailored and in front of the people that they need to be in front of. Being able to support that with, the digital side of the ball, developing, microsites and display units, social units, et cetera, all in-house to be able to do that, writing and designing those pieces. So, we do a lot of by project work, where it's like, hey, build us a website, or hey, make us a logo. But I think we are our best when someone kind of hands us the keys and says, look, this is our issue. We've got a campaign with a decent budget to solve it. What do we do? And that's where we live and breathe. And I think that's where we've had our most success and probably what we're most known for.
With regards to your team, do you internally or externally?
Nearly 99% internally, nearly 100%. I mean, we have always kind of gone out of our way to say, let's make sure that we've got the people in house, because it works just like any other team, man, any other sports team. Like, the longer these guys play with each other and have the opportunity to work and create together, the better the stuff's going to be. The better the language communication. And
do you recruit them locally, or do you have to go out beyond Hampton Roads to get them?
So great question. That's something that, it's gross to use the word opportunity in the midst of in context of something like the pandemic. But the pandemic was actually pretty advantageous for us from a hiring perspective, because, again, back to these kind of big agency conglomerates, we're firing people left and right. They were just letting folks go because of the uncertainty and the economic shifts and everything else. And we were able to find people across the country that were working for some of these really large agencies that maybe otherwise wouldn't have considered Norfolk, Virginia a home for whatever reason, that now we could bring on remotely and have been able to retain them. So we're about 50-50. I mean, one thing that I have seen is a lot of our leadership team resides here in Hampton Roads, and a lot of folks have been with us for a really long time, but it's a good mix, man. I mean, we've got folks in Washington State and Florida, New York City, like all over the place, all over the map. So it's been cool. We've got somebody in Japan now, which is awesome. And we've been able to bring people in too, from Brazil, from other localities as well, that just offer unique perspectives and give us a chance to make certain that everything that's coming out of the shop doesn't look exactly the same, doesn't sound exactly the same. So it's been great for us.
Very cool. So you guys, the reason why I start getting Spanish ads, because I'm doing 5 minutes of Duolingo a day.
Como?
Yeah.
Could be one of the reasons. Yes, sir.
There you go. Higher Sway. What's something we haven't talked about that
I got something real quick that I want to throw out there. Is what's your take when if you hear someone locally say that they have to hire an agency that has bigger chops, that is located outside of the area? I mean, like you guys grow. I mean, it's just amazing talent that is capable of doing like national level stuff. What do you say to people locally here saying, hey, what about us over here? We're capable of doing that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, number one, I would say they don't have better shops. Having been, you mentioned Grow down the street, like incredible agency, one I had the pleasure of working for too. They're in that same boat. I mean, the people that we have working for us in the book of business and the projects that we've done are on par with any of these larger agencies. But yeah, you absolutely have an uphill battle, and you're naive if you don't, think that. I think the big USPs for us is just the ability to actually talk to the people that are doing the work. I mean, so often when you deal with one of these larger agencies, you're dealing with people in a pitch that you never see again when you win the business, or they disappear when a bigger company walks through the door and they need to, divert their attention to that. So yeah, I think what's so advantageous about working with a shop like ours is, we are nimble. We're not small, but we're not, massive either. There's not a lot of, an account person that then walks and talks to a producer that then walks and talks to the actual person that's doing the work. It's, you're talking to the people that are putting these things together and creating this stuff on the fly, there's a lot of advantageous and opportunity there. So, for us, I think it's just really selling the opportunity to, be a part of that and be a true partner versus just being another client that's on our roster. I think something else too that we've been able to really see that be effective is, man, we have really made an MO of kind of playing cleanup for a lot of these agencies that have gone in and treated these clients like second-class citizens because they're not at the top of the roster. And a client that might be 4 or 5 for somebody else is a number 1 for us. So,
right.
It helps to put people on that pedestal sometimes, and they get it and they appreciate it.
Yeah, I dig that. I mean, it's just like it just makes me kind of crazy. It's just like, when we want to be the next Nashville or the next Charlotte or whatever, it's like, well, in order to do that, we need to hire an agency from outside of this area, because I mean, that's just like, dude, we've got such talented people here. And it just, the whole, you don't get fired for hiring IBM cliche, man. Right. It's just like, that makes me kind of crazy. It's just like, the amount of passion that you put into something's huge.
It works the other way too, though, right? I mean, it works from our perspective of not just being out there crowing about, oh, we don't get the big work. It's like, well, how do you go about doing that and being realistic about how you approach it? I mean, I'll give you an example. We got spun up on a project for LifeWater. Well, LifeWater is owned by Pepsi, right? So in our view, like, we're going to absolutely over deliver for this brand manager at LifeWater that, probably in the hierarchy of where he works, maybe that's not the most sought after brand to want to work for. If we can create something that's really captivating for him, well, next week he might be working on Diet Pepsi and we might be working with him, or he might go over to Coke and we get to go hang out over there. Right. So, it's also like looking for smart openings and knowing how to scale in a way that gets you to that work that ultimately that you want to do. And doing so by proving your worth, man, and showing that, you can do the work at the same caliber as some of these other agencies, but you're so much better to work with and have a client service that's unmatched to it. And, ultimately have people that want to be partners. So, we do just as much, I think, winning that kind of, punching above our weight kind of business by figuring out how to fight the early rounds and, crappy gyms, and working your way through.
That's awesome.
Glad you slipped that in, Tim. That was good.
2 minutes.
Okay.
Story.
Anything else you want to talk about?
I don't know, man.
Okay. Tim, you want to ask, or you want me to?
Tee it up, man.
Okay. I think the last few weeks for this question have resulted in some very good answers. And I would expect nothing less from you. So please don't disappoint. Really,
all right, guys, gotta go.
Yeah. Okay. So you're bringing in a teammate from outside. You're bringing in a client from outside. You bring them in through the Norfolk International Airport that you guys helped redesign.
Yep.
And then they get sick, so they got to go to Rite Aid down the street, which you guys also redesigned.
Team me up, man. They get their Virginia's for Lovers shirt.
Yep. They're actually at Town
Norfolk
Point
Welcome
Park.
Center.
Yeah, they're at Town Point Park, which you're part of the Visit Norfolk. Bring it.
Keep going, man. Yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
Okay. And then
eat their Smithfield ham on the way.
Well, now we're kind of getting there. Okay.
Okay.
So, is there a place food-wise that you have to take them, or is there a food of the region similar to the buffalo wing? The
Boston cream,
Philly, the Boston cream.
Yeah. Well, we did a series. I mean, this sounds like such a total.
With Namarama, right?
Total work. Yeah, called City with Bite. That was literally about that. It was defining these places that are just absolutely killer. I mean, I think what Norfolk's appeal is from a culinary scene, we do ourselves a disservice if we said it's this one thing. I have always viewed this place as a transient community, not as a pejorative. Like, I think that's an awesome thing to be. That totally resonates when you start talking about food, right? Where you've got all these people that are coming in from the military, from the Navy, that are winding up settling here, that come from all over the place, that have been stationed all over the place, that have been turned on to all these different types of food. We're one of the few places, I feel like, in the country that have that level of different types of citizens and diversity of cuisine. So for me, I don't think you landed on any one singular thing. I think it's that per capita, we actually have one of the highest concentrations of independent restaurants in the country. That's just data. That's real talk. So, number one, places that I would say, I mean, I have a few. If I'm doing date night, there's a joint called Crudo Nudo up the street that is incredible. Cat from Suffolk, brilliant chef, really awesome. And I'll shout out my buddy Parker too at Tap House, which is just like my favorite hang, to just go and get a burger and tots and drink a beer and watch a band. So yeah, man, those would probably be the haunts that we would go to. I mean, but there's a million of them. I mean, seriously, like there are so many great spots to take people to here that the Handsome Biscuits of the world, and like, I mean, go down the list, dude.
Have you been to Donut Dugout yet?
I haven't yet. No, I've not yet. I got to get on that.
You know about it though, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
What's your take?
Hell yeah.
Change your life, man. It will change your life.
There you go, man. All right.
Get one of those apple fritters. I was there yesterday.
Dude.
There was like 5 people in there. I was like, oh, yeah. This is crazy. They all got baseball hats on now. I'm like, I really wouldn't call this a baseball town, but like, that's.
Norfolk's got that quiet, like bakery kind of whole deal thing on lock, man. Like La Brioche, Nos is insane. Like there's some killer joints to get some little pastry action for sure.
Your answer about food and the diversity of it is what Jarrell said too, from Namarama. And I think that was maybe the first time it had been articulated that. I think we've asked this is episode 258. I think we've asked that question at least for the last 100 or so episodes, last 3 years. And so it's really interesting. I think it's spun out of like, I don't remember how it started, but if there was a regional answer that people give, it's the Mexican white sauce.
Yeah.
Seafood as a whole.
Not even a thing. Yeah.
And then the orange crush.
Yeah, okay. I can see the orange crush, the Waterman's orange crush. They kind of own that. That's for sure. I've had many of those in the day for sure.
I was there last weekend. I refused to drink those things. They are very, very dangerous.
Yeah, that's definitely Uber City for sure.
I definitely did Uber. I went to a Murphy's. That was apparently it wasn't that crowded, but I thought it was crowded. So I'm just getting old, like you said, Jared. Like it's that's what happens. We appreciate your time. This has been a rad blast.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
Continued success, and looking forward to having you on whatever 258 times 2 is. So 516 to talk about where you guys are doing then.
Likewise, guys. Maybe a little wrestling too. Never know.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Peace.